Well, welcome back. And I've been looking forward to our special guest today, Robert Eringer. He's a longtime investigative journalist and intelligence operative who served as the intelligence advisor to Prince Albert II of Monaco, where he helped establish the Principality's first intelligence service with nearly 5 decades of investigative reporting and intelligence work, including undercover assignments for the FBI counterintelligence. He now writes and speaks about corruption, power, secrecy, and global elites. He's the author of a fascinating book called The Spy Master of Monaco, The Tales of Royalty, Espionage, and Betrayal. Wow. There's a picture of the cover on the book. He does have a place where you can connect with him, Robert Eringer. That's ERINGER.substack.com. So a lot going on there. Robert, good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for that lovely introduction.
Well, thank you. Where are you? Where are we talking to you from?
I'm in sunny Montecito, California, right next to Santa Barbara.
Okay, I know exactly where that is. Nice to have you. Boy, where do I start with you? I mean, I think we all suspect corruption. The big three is power, money and sex. And you recently spoke out about how Congress voted to block the release of the internal records related to misconduct investigation among Congresspeople. How significant is that block?
That block is, I think it's very important that it happens, that somebody needs to do something about insider trading in Congress. It's not really my area, but interestingly, I always thought Monaco was perhaps the most corrupt place I'd ever been. But lately, just watching the news here in the United States and watching what's been going on in Congress, as you mentioned, and Minnesota, and I'm sure right here in California, corruption is so rampant. It makes me wonder how I ever would go to Monaco and try to counsel them on how they had to clean up their act, especially when I was working closely with the CIA and also the FBI, and they were trying to assist when the very same thing goes on in our own backyard.
My brain's on tilt with this whole Epstein deal, this whole Epstein case and files. The Democrats had it for 4 years, didn't do anything. The Republicans now have it, and the Democrats are screaming at it, release it. Some say yes, some say no. Then it gets redacted. What's really going on here? Do you know?
A good indication of what's really going on is what happens now with Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. The state of New Mexico, the Attorney General there, Raul Torres, has pledged to investigate something that should have been investigated 6-7 years ago. The FBI raided Epstein's homes in New York, Palm Beach, and of course the infamous Little James Island, St. James Island. But for some reason, Zorro Ranch was left alone. And this is quite an amazing structure way out in New Mexico, way away from the city, where as early as 2019, there were tips to the FBI that there may be bodies buried, the bodies of 2 foreign women who were sexually trafficked to Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. What happens there should be a fascinating development. It's been long in the making, and whether anything happens or not will be the true test of how serious the elites and the politicians truly are about getting to the bottom of Jeffrey Epstein and all that he did.
You think we'll ever know?
Like I said, I don't know. Right now, at the last I heard, the Attorney General has requested all of the Epstein files unredacted from the FBI as his starting point. So what happens? Does the DOJ comply and give him what he needs? And if he doesn't get what he needs, does that mean he's not going to go searching around a place that should have had cadaver dogs wandering around 6-7 years ago? It's anyone's guess. Up until recently, I think Governor Bill Richardson, or rather former Governor Bill Richardson, who is no longer with us, perhaps was extremely influential in seeing that the investigation of Zorro Ranch was suppressed. And that would be because Virginia Giuffre, who accused Prince Andrew, now just plain Andrew, of having sex with her when she was only 17, we now know that's true, made the very same accusations against former Governor Bill Richardson. So he would have every reason to use his influence in the state of New Mexico to assure that Zorro Ranch did not get investigated. However, Richardson died in September of 2023, so perhaps does not have that very same influence, unless there were other officials, senior officials in New Mexico involved. Really, based on their records so far, both New Mexico and DOJ and the FBI in investigating Epstein, I don't have high hopes about ever getting to the bottom of everything.
Do you think, from just the way you work and what you see and how this case has been handled, that foreign leaders and maybe even our State Department's been compromised?
It's quite possible. I mean, there was a senior Israeli politician who was implicated, and there's, based on the files that have since been released, every indication that he probably did partake in trafficked young women, even minors. And I think that, and especially in Britain, where you had the Trade and Industry Secretary, Peter Mandelson, his house was recently raided by the police because it was believed, based on what they released in the files, that he had supplied Epstein with all kinds of confidential secret information that violated Britain's Official Secrets Act. He's in a lot of trouble now. So is formerly Prince Andrew, for doing the same thing when he was Britain's trade envoy. So it already has had an impact on foreign leaders. Maybe there are others. I think the DOJ needs to come through with with the law that was passed in Congress and release everything. And aside from just masking the identities of victims, they need to unredact many of those pages, which seem to be not just victim identities, but perhaps many, many more details that would reveal the names of people that you're suggesting could be involved.
Wow. Back to your time being an intelligence advisor to Prince Albert II there in Monaco. What a job. And yet, were you shocked what you saw?
I was in awe most of the time. At the very beginning, of course, quite excited about putting together for him an intelligence agency. The problem is that the reason Prince Albert brought me in when he was the hereditary prince, when he was not yet in charge, was because he had not been informed about anything that was going on. I think he had father issues, or rather his father had son issues, and was not teaching him about the mechanics of the principality. Monaco's government kept him in the dark. They sent him off, I mean, traveled a lot to all over the world, meeting world leaders, but never was briefed by Monaco or by the French on who he was meeting, what they were like. And it was left to me to do that when he retained me at first to be his intelligence advisor in June 2002. So I was shocked to start with that he was so badly misinformed. And I took it upon myself, with his permission, to visit the CIA and MI6 in Britain and ask for their assistance to come brief Albert and myself, especially when he was going off on a trip to meet a foreign leader. So I created liaison relationships with both of those intelligence services, and that went a long way to ensuring that Albert at least was informed. But to answer your question more directly, yes, when it finally came time, when Albert ascended the throne, his father, Prince Rainier III, passed in April of 2005, and Albert was, I'd say, suddenly thrust into that role, except his father had been ill for some time. He should have been better prepared. Unfortunately, Albert was never well prepared for anything, even after I arrived on the scene. But then it came upon me to investigate the various ministers that he wanted to vet, those already running ministries and those who he might consider bringing in to run Monaco's government. And it is then that I discovered widespread, rampant corruption everywhere. It shouldn't have surprised me because Monaco was created by pirates in 1297 and has always been a corrupt state. Albert wanted to clean the place up, which is another one of his primary reasons for bringing me in. And when I saw the extent of it all, I was astounded. And in the end, Albert gave up. He just did not clean up Monaco, did not do what he said he was going to do. They fought back. They managed to get his chief of staff fired, a man who had been aligned with me to work with Albert to clean the place up. And once that happened, I saw the writing on the wall. And as it turned out, Albert realigned himself with corrupt interests to a point where it got him in serious trouble down the road years after I left his employ, when it was discovered that the ministers, especially the justice minister, who I implored him not to appoint, was fired, was resigned in disgrace when he was exposed by the French media of rampant corruption.
Just one quick question before I take a break. Was the son, was he shocked when you first started revealing to him the corruption?
I don't think he was shocked. I think he was dismayed. And the man who had been groomed to be his chief of staff, who was the son of the man who had been Prince Rainier's chief of staff and who headed the finance ministry, we deemed to be very corrupt. And Albert, to his credit, bypassed him and went around him and hired a man who we vetted, who we thought was very, very good.
All right, let me take a quick break. Let me say to our viewers and listeners this story. He's got it in a book called The Spy Master of the Monte Carlo, Tales of Royalty, Espionage, and Betrayal. There's a picture of the cover of the book. Robert, can they get that online?
It's already available pre-order on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all of the other internet booksellers, and it is officially published on March 19th.
Well, congratulations. And check out Robert Eringer.substack.com. There's a picture of that landing page. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back and enjoying our time together with Robert Eringer. He's a longtime investigative journalist. He worked there for the Prince Albert II of Monaco as an intelligence agent. He's got a book that tells all about it. It's called The Spy Master of Monte Carlo, Tales of Royalty, Espionage, and Betrayal. Just what little we've talked about today is just astounding. Robert, given your background of investigation and intelligence, we have now seen unbelievable corruptions at all levels of government. We saw it with DOGE being exposed. Now we see it in Illinois to the tune of maybe $19 billion. And we're saying that is nothing compared to what may be happening and exposed in California under Governor Newsom. Do you think he's corrupt?
Do I think Governor Newsom himself is corrupt?
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to be, because although he tries to portray himself as coming from a kind of almost poverty-stricken background, that's actually quite the opposite of what's true. He was pretty much brought up by the Getty oil family and has always done extremely well, whether they're supported him in business and certainly in politics. He's a product of the elite and has become the elite. Corrupt. I think there is a lot of corruption in California, and unfortunately, he's been sitting in office while a lot of it has been going on. It remains to be seen what gets exposed now that the focus is on California.
Okay, I guess we'll see how that as it unwinds. Back in Washington, D.C., when DOGE was in full swing, we saw a lot of corruption. From your perspective, maybe it's a 30,000-foot view, how bad is Washington, D.C.?
Well, I lived there all through the 90s, and I had a sense working undercover for the FBI just in how bad shape the bureaucracies are, and the protocol involved, how slow everything is. It's all about process. It's rarely about outcome. I think they call it the deep state. I got a taste of insider Washington, which is really true. It's the permanent employees of Washington institutions that really run the place. Presidents come and go and rarely have enough time to really get a grip on their office and what it is they try to accomplish, not least because they also have Congress to deal with. But permanent insider Washington, as I call it, run circles around the Oval Office, except in the case now of President Trump, who is an outcome president, an activist president, rather than being all about process. And I'll give you an example of that. I mean, somebody will get elected to the White House, they get there, they have all these wonderful ideas, and they want to change things, and all of a sudden these representatives of various institutions show up and explain to him all the reasons that won't work, because they're very pro status quo, and they just like things to go on as they always have. That's process. Trump, on the other hand, has certain ideas, and during his first term, he got the runaround, I believe, and was ready for a second term, 4 years after he was out of office, to go in there and really do what he wanted to do, paying very little attention to those who serve the process and who always, the naysayers who say, no, sir, that can't be done, and here's why.
How consequential has his second term been?
Well, I think it's quite amazing what he's done. Most recently with Venezuela, and now in Iran, he's flexed his muscle, and he's shown that the United States of America is the world power, and he's left Russia and China, our greatest adversaries, in horror as to how willing he is to flex his muscle. Sadly, their strategy is wait them out. I think that's why they haven't really tried to do anything about Iran, other than Russia's feeble attempt to supply so-called intelligence to the Iranians. But they know the American system, and Putin and Xi are there for as long as they choose to be, maybe years and years and years, and they know we're governed by election cycles. And I do believe that China and Russia's strategy is just to bide their time, flatter Trump as much as they can, because they learned that that's what's important here. And eventually they'll be dealing with another administration that won't be so outcome oriented.
That's very interesting. When we look at government, we see all these agencies that demand transparency, but when it comes to an audit, they don't want it. What does that tell you?
It tells you they're wasting a lot of taxpayer money for a start. I mean, you got corruption, that's one thing, and then you got waste, and the combination's a killer.
This is just amazing. Do you think we'll ever get to the bottom of corruption in Illinois?
Well, I think we've made strides in Minnesota, and I think they've exposed it.
Oh,
now
Minnesota,
that,
yes, excuse me.
Governor of Minnesota is not going to run for re-election again. Remains to be seen how Pritzker reacts to federal probes in Illinois, and whether it means he is doomed, as Tim Walz was doomed by such revelations. And same with Gavin Newsom, who, as we know, has presidential aspirations. Hopefully they'll get to the bottom of whatever corruption exists in California, and that'll be the end of Gavin Newsom's campaign. Can you imagine the whole country being run the way California's been run? All you got to do is take a look at the fires that took place in Pacific Palisades and other parts of LA. They were not prepared for it. They should have been, because these natural disasters are common in California. You got to be prepared. And then there's so much red tape to rebuild. There are people who have been waiting for months and months and months and months for permits to just rebuild what they once had.
So I guess I mean, California is a beautiful state. I'm originally from there years ago, but the point being is it's gotten so crazy down there. You're a citizen now. Will it survive?
Maybe without me. I've been meaning to leave here since I got caught up in the Montecito mudslide 8 years ago. That should have been my exit right there. But of course, there were so many loose ends to tie up, and with family obligations, etc. I still haven't moved from here, but I keep meaning to. Along with a lot of other people who have left, and for Texas, Florida, and I got good friends who've gone to Idaho. So, yeah.
Okay. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out Robert's book. I think you'll find it to be an amazing read. It's called The Spy Master of Monte Carlo, Tales of Royalty, Espionage, and Betrayal. There's a picture of the cover there on the book. It comes out. There's early orders available, so you can check that out. I think you'll find that to be a fascinating read. You can check in with his work at Robert Eringer.
Hold on a moment, please.
That's called eringer.substack.com. Robert, you're fascinating. Let's stay connected. As Illinois and well, let's see, what else we have? These other states, Michigan and others, begin to unwind. California, it'd be interesting to see what your take is on some of this corruption, if it ever really comes out.
If it really comes out.
Yeah. Nice to see you. Thanks for your time, friend.
Thank you for having me, Perry. Have a great day. Bye.